right, got that teed up, I think. Yep. Okay, folks.
Should I
Yeah.
let people in?
If you could let people in, that'd be
Yeah.
awesome. Okay. All right, welcome everybody. Glad you're joining us tonight. My name's Dee Clarkin. I'm the Executive Director of Indivisible Montgomery, so welcome everybody as you're coming in. We want to get started right on time. We've got a lot on our agenda, including a special guest. So we'll be watching for him in the waiting room. So why don't I go ahead, and you should be seeing our slide there, welcoming you. Again, welcome, come on in. Okay, folks. Well, thanks again for coming. Just a few housekeeping notes about the meeting tonight. We are recording this, and we've got a lot of information on the slides for you tonight. So we will be sending these slides out after the meeting is over. So don't stress about, trying to capture anything. There's going to be a lot of links in the slides and a lot of information you're going to want to go through later. We have two goals tonight. One is to meet one of our candidates who we are supporting with our States Project Giving Circle for the House of Delegates in Virginia. That's Josh Cole. He's in Fredericksburg in District 65, about 2 hours south of us. So we're super excited to have him with us tonight to learn about his district and his campaign. We also then are going to switch over to discussing 1 Million Rising, which is Indivisible's new program. We'll go through the program very quickly, and then we hope to get to a discussion period towards the end of the meeting. You are muted, but when we get into the discussion period, we'll ask you to unmute yourself and join in with us. So you can see the things we're going to be trying to cover in the 1 Million Rising part of the meeting tonight. I'm going to go ahead. I'm assuming Josh is not with us yet, and sort of proceed forward. Does that sound good, guys? Don't see delegate the delegate.
No.
Okay, thanks. Okay, great. So let's just move right through, and then we'll interrupt this when the delegate joins us. First of all, we want to talk about authoritarianism. What do authoritarians or would-be authoritarians do? Some of this you're seeing. First of all, it's important to note that this is not unique to Donald Trump. He didn't invent this. This is a playbook that all authoritarians tend to use. We are in a period, according to Indivisible's opinion, is that we're in a period of authoritarian breakthrough, where Donald Trump is trying to take over, and switch us into an authoritarian form of government. So what do authoritarians do? Well, they issue direct investigations against critics. And just this week, we saw that Trump has told DOJ to go after Jack Smith. They give license to lawbreaking. So you saw one of the first things that Trump did was to pardon the January 6th insurrectionists. They engage in regulatory retaliation. So you see attacks against the perfectly valid and great renewable energy industry in this country.
When you finish this slide.
Oh, great. Okay.
Josh Cole's here.
Okay, awesome. They deploy the military domestically, and that is what you saw happen in LA. And they engage in federal law enforcement overreach. That is, what happened. You see the perfect example of that is ICE. And then last but not least, the autocrat won't leave, despite being shown the door. And we have seen that the people in DOJ, are spokespeople and so forth, are hinting at a third term for Trump. So on that happy note, let's switch over and talk. I'm going to toss it over to Steve Pressman, who is on our steering committee, who is going to be introducing Delegate Josh Cole. Go for it, Steve.
Thank you, Dee. Delegate Cole spoke to us when he ran in 2021. I don't know if you remember that, Delegate Cole, but we are really happy that you're able to join us again today. We'll do Delegate Cole will speak to us, and then we'll do a short Q&A after he speaks. So if you have any questions, save them until then. As Dee said, Joshua Cole represents District 65 in the House of Delegates. That district includes Fredericksburg and parts of Stafford and Spotsylvania counties. One second. He's running for re-election. He is the incumbent, and he's one of Virginia's delegates who we in Indivisible Montgomery are supporting by raising money through our giving circle. We've raised just about $15,000 so far this year with a goal of $25,000. All of the donations go directly to the designated candidates. This is a particularly good time to donate because we are getting matching funds right now from the state's project. So if you haven't donated, please do so now. That would be great, and your donation would be matched. And if you haven't donated, please consider donating again. Joshua Cole has been a pastor, president of the Stafford County NAACP, and a chief of staff to a delegate. In 2019, he became the youngest person and the first Black person from the Fredericksburg area to be elected to the General Assembly. In 2021, he lost his seat by fewer than 1,000 votes in what was a very tough election for Democrats across the board. But he was reelected in 2023. In the General Assembly, he has voted to cap out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs, to raise the minimum wage, expand voting rights, and make community college tuition free. He's fought for women's right to choose, for workers' rights, and for environmental protection. I think we're going to drop the link to his website in the chat if we haven't already.
I did.
Great. Right now, Democrats hold a 51-49 majority in the House of Delegates. So this election, like all the elections in the Virginia House, is critical. We have to do all we can to ensure that Joshua Cole is reelected. So with that, I will say welcome, Delegate Cole, and the floor is yours.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Steve. I really appreciate it. And thank you to Invisible Montgomery County for MoCo for having me tonight. I really appreciate seeing all of you all virtually. I have to give a shout out to you all in Maryland because I'm suffering from what we call governor envy. And about a week ago, your governor called me just to check on me and make sure the race was going well. And so I have some big love for Maryland right about now. Just to give you kind of an update where we are with our race. I have been running in what has been called toss-up districts ever since I ran the very first time in 2017. Someone has affectionately called me the ping pong candidate. I win, I lose, I win. And this year, we are believing that reelection will lean in our favor. Numbers are looking like everything is leaning in our favor right now, but keep in mind, it's still early. We are less than 90 days from Election Day. Everything is working in Democrats' favor, but anything can change in just a breath, right? And so for our race this year, While I was considered a toss-up race, our race has kind of been leaned as they consider a lean Democrat race. But my race is only one of 4 seats that the Democrats are protecting. Meanwhile, Republicans have 9 seats they are trying to protect. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, you already heard Steve say the Democrats have a 51-seat majority in the Virginia House of Delegates. The good news is that Joe Biden in 2020 won 60 of our 100 seats. And last year, Kamala Harris won 59 of our 100 seats. And we are absolutely coming for all 60 of those seats so that we can expand our majority. And the good news is that the momentum is on our side this year. And we are excited and cautiously optimistic that not only will Abigail Spanberger be our governor, not only will Senator Ghazala Hashmi be our lieutenant governor, not only will Jay Jones be our attorney general, but we will expand our majority in the Virginia House of Delegates. And the majority runs through here in Fredericksburg. And so everything that you all are doing to help us out is really going to empower us and make sure that we jump across the finish line come November and that we're able to get to work delivering for folks. Here in the Fredericksburg area, I'm about just a little over an hour south of you all, if you're not familiar with the Fredericksburg area. But we have people who live here who, of course, are federal workers. I have been working with my colleagues hard at work on a special committee on government job loss and the impacts of federal funding loss in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And what we've been noticing is the things that Trump said he has planned to do, he who shall not be named, and what those in Congress said they would do. If they had gotten away with everything they said they would have done, it would have decimated Virginia's economy. And I'm not talking about, oh, it'll hurt us, we'll overcome it, we'll get better. It would have decimated us. Some of the things they intended to do has not been able to be accomplished because it's been stuck in court or the courts have knocked it down. We're grateful for that. But we're still looking at the barrel down at the big BS bill is what I call it, the billionaire subsidy bill, right? The things that they've been doing that are going to hurt our schools, whether it's research for our colleges and universities. We've been hearing conversations how that's going to impact, their budgets. We're looking at how we'll have to deal with Medicaid, with SNAP, and all those different things that have been snatched away federally. We have to either determine, one, how are we going to fund that so that people in the Commonwealth of Virginia don't feel what's happening? Or do we have to go ahead and say some people are going to have to deal with those cuts and we hurt people doing that? Even in the Commonwealth of Virginia, when we expanded Medicaid a little over 5-6 years ago, we purposely did not include a work requirement because we knew there were people who would be eligible for Medicaid, but would be hurt if they had a work requirement. And so from the Republicans' perspective, they want to put in a work requirement because they think people are lazy and that people need to have a work requirement. But the actual reality of it is the majority of people who are on Medicaid are because, one, they have a disability, they're incapable of working, or whatever other varied issues. It's not that just people want to use government resources because they're lazy. Most Americans want to go to work. Most Americans want to support themselves, right? And so that work requirement is going to significantly impact the people of the Commonwealth of Virginia. And so I've been kind of sharing this message as I'm talking to people that I hate to give you a gloom and doom message, but you need to understand what's on the line and what's at risk if we do not maintain our majority. And if Abigail Spanberger doesn't become our governor. And if you ask me, even more importantly, if Jay Jones doesn't become our attorney general, because the attorney general is the one that sues the brakes off of Donald Trump when things happen, right? And so we absolutely have to make sure we have a Democratic attorney general that will work with us as a legislature, work with the other Democratic elected attorneys general all throughout the Commonwealth of the United States, right? And so there's so much at risk. You all know the importance of that, and so I appreciate that. I'll open it up to see if anyone has any questions or comments, or Steve, however the program is going. But I'm excited, and I really appreciate all the support you're doing this year because this election is, and excuse my vernacular, but this election in the Commonwealth of Virginia is hella important, and we have to make sure that Lottie Dottie and everybody shows up this year.
Yeah, let's take anybody who has questions. You can either physically raise your hand or use the raise hand function on Zoom. And while people are thinking about that, I'll ask first, what do you, Delegate Cole, what is the most important issue to the voters you're talking to in your district?
As I've been knocking on doors, of course, the federal issue comes up. But believe it or not, people in the Fredericksburg area are talking about a couple of different things that I hear about the same when I'm on the doors. Affordable housing is a big thing here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We're seeing people who are either one, priced out and are forced to move into more rural parts of Virginia. They're still working in DC. They're still working here in Fredericksburg, but they're forced to move 20, 30 minutes out into either Culpeper, Orange, King George, which are surrounding rural parts of the Fredericksburg suburb area, right? Because it's too expensive to live here. On top of that, if they're not being priced out, they cannot find a place to rent because now renters, I'm not sure if you're aware, and no bad juju on any of the landlords who are here. We appreciate you. We need you for our economy too. But there are people who are saying before you can qualify to move into this apartment or move into this home, you not only have to pay first month rent and a security deposit, but last month rent, and you need to make 3 times what your rent is going to be in order to even qualify to be accepted into homes. And so people are saying that, if they're not being priced out, they're moving here or they want to move to a bigger home and they can't find a bigger place because they don't qualify for housing in the area, right? And so we've done a couple different things during this General Assembly session to try to mitigate and try to help that. There were some legislation for rent control. I had a first-time homebuyers grant that would allow first-time homebuyers to have $10,000 towards your first home. The governor vetoed that legislation. It made it through the General Assembly. The governor vetoed that legislation. And so there were other different methods that we had to help renters, to help people who wanted to get into their first homes, to help people make sure that they could have easy accessibility to homes. I also carried a piece of legislation and having conversation about what we call Yes in God's Backyard, which will allow churches and nonprofit organizations, if they have land and property or a large parking lot that they're not using, to bypass the rezoning aspect and build affordable housing on their property, right? And so we've seen this happen in other areas. There's even places in Northern Virginia where this is already happening. We just want to do it on a state level. And so those are all conversations that we've been having in order to assist and increase affordable housing in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
We do have one question in the chat from Lynn, and I'm not sure if this is something that would be in your neck of the woods. Can you talk about GMU? I assume that's George Mason University. Do you want to take that
Sure.
one?
What we've been seeing, and if you've all been paying attention, it's not just GMU. All the universities, not just in the Commonwealth of Virginia, but all over the United States, are coming under attack under Republican administrations. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, I'm not sure how it works in every other state, but at least I know in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the boards of visitors for universities are appointed by the governor. And so I say it all the time, and it's a common phrase that we know, right? Democrats play checkers, Republicans play chess. And so Governor Youngkin and a few other cronies have been making a push to appoint hand-selected people who've donated millions to his campaign, to put them on the board of supervisors so that they can knock out good, qualified presidents. We saw it at VMI a couple months ago. We saw President Washington at GMU come under attack. I'm grateful. I think he made it through. I saw an article not too long ago that said not only did they keep him, but they gave him a raise. So we're grateful about that, but we're still not out of the woods until we have a new Democratic governor in January, right? So I remember while we were in session, Speaker Don Scott brought all of the Black presidents of the universities in the Commonwealth of Virginia, brought them together, sat them down and said, you need to be prepared to lose your job. And he was like, and at this point, there's not much that we can do to protect you until we have a new governor. Luckily, we only lost one so far, which was the chancellor of VMI down in Lexington, Virginia. But with Youngkin changing the board of visitors for these colleges and universities, all of the president's jobs are on the line. And so I'll do some more research, but I believe President Washington at George Mason, I think, has survived. I think he's good. But again, like I said, none of these universities are out of the woods until we get a new governor, until we completely wipe those board of visitors out of the Youngkin appointees, and that we ensure people who support education, people who support not just public education, but making sure that liberal arts colleges have the ability to do what they need to do, have the right people on their board of visitors.
Other questions? I'll just note that in addition to the giving circle that I mentioned, we are also Indivisible Montgomery, along with other groups, have been engaged in postcard campaign. Very successful, I think, and we're going to do another round soon of postcards to voters, targeted voters in Virginia. So everybody out there, look for that in the Indivisible Montgomery newsletter. And we also partner with Jaywalkers Action Group on phone banks to Virginia. We've done a few already. We're also going to do phone bank training, Phone Bank 101, for anybody who hasn't done much phone banking and wants to learn how. So look for information about that as well. So we are going to do everything we can to make sure that the Joshua Cole is reelected and that the House of Delegates and the Attorney General and the Lieutenant Governor and the Governor are all Democratic.
Steve, we have one more question. I see Fern's got her hand up.
Yes, Delegate Cole. My question, frankly, concerns and is actually topical today because the RFK Jr. has, in fact, rescinded money for the development of mRNA vaccines. And one of the concerns that I have is that, coupled with that, is that the vaccine board, which used to be housed in the Centers for Disease Control, and which essentially made decisions regarding vaccines, and essentially the recommendations about vaccines in accordance with the public health needs of the nation, that board now has essentially been disbanded. It still exists, but the science-based members have largely been removed or resigned. And my concern is for a state-based replacement, and a state, I should say, and regional-based replacement. My question is, has that issue at all been brought up in the Virginia legislature? Has there been any thought at all about instituting a state-based vaccine board, particularly one that can, for example, advise the state about school policy for vaccinations?
I don't think that has been discussed. I actually sit on the Health and Human Services Committee, and I think under this Republican administration, that would be a no-go. We would pass it in the General Assembly most likely, but it would get vetoed. And most of those things are handled by the Secretary of Health and different things like that in the Commonwealth. And of course, that's a Republican appointee right now. But I'm sure now that has taken place today, that we'll start having conversations about that amongst our colleagues and our Democratic caucus, because as we prepare for session in January with a new governor, that will be something that we would be incumbent upon us to put in place, right? And so that conversation has not started yet, at least from my ears. But I'm sure there are plenty of people in the Commonwealth of Virginia, the subject matter experts, who are putting plans in place so that we can do something about that come January.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm thinking at this point, we might need to let you go. You're so generous with your time. We have more questions, but maybe we could forward them to your office. Would that be cool?
Absolutely. No problem at all. I did see, if you would give me an opportunity, I did see one that asked the question about data centers.
Sure.
The wedge issue for Democrats. We actually passed a comprehensive data center reform bill this year out of the General Assembly that the governor vetoed. It would have been the only data center reform bill that we would have had, and the governor vetoed it. I'm not sure if it's a wedge issue yet, but it is definitely a problem, a separating and divide issue
Hmm.
for the wealthy Democrats, the environmental Democrats. And I think there's a lot of misinformation that's running around in the Commonwealth of Virginia. One of the things that I have personally been stating that I will support data centers under three instances, right? One, if the data centers can confirm that those who are building and those who are working will be unionized and labor employees. Two, what are you doing to make sure that the water is being protected in the area that you are utilizing? And three, can we confirm that the grid is going to be able to handle the energy that's going to be coming from these? And so many of those issues are a local issue, right? That the local government has to handle. We don't approve data centers from the General Assembly, but the local governments do. And so I have been stressing to the three localities that I have, because they are having active conversations about data centers right now. The county I live in has already started building. The city of Fredericksburg is having conversations, and the county of Spotsylvania is having conversations. And what I've been stressing to the board of supervisor members and the city council members is protect your water, make sure the grid can handle it, and make sure that worker rights are protected, right? And so I know for the largest data center in Stafford County, where I live, they came in and they said, we won't touch potable water. And on top of that, we are going to build you a brand new stormwater treatment facility and a new renovate and renew your potable water treatment facility. And so for that data center to come in, not only is the money they're going towards schools, but they're putting that money back to make sure that their water is clean. Now, not every data center is doing this. Not every data center is doing what they can to support the environment and to protect our energy. But that's why it's required. That's why it's important that we also support all levels of government and make sure we have the right people on the board of supervisors and city council positions, so they're asking the right questions and they're pushing for the right things to happen on their local level.
Thank you so much for that. Okay, I do think we need to move on, and I see people asking, how can I help? We put a link to Delegate Cole's website in the chat. You should be able to click on that. And of course, if you've already donated to the Giving Circle, or if you haven't, please go ahead and do that, because all the funds that we're raising go to our slate of candidates for the House of Delegates in Virginia, including Delegate Cole. So we are so grateful for you spending the time with us tonight, sir. Really appreciate
Appreciate
it.
y'all. Thank you so much. I see my staffer, Jimena, is on. If Jimena would just drop her email in the chat, if anyone wants to reach out,
Great.
anything, you can connect with Jimena and she'll get you plugged in. But thank you all so much. I appreciate it. And it was good seeing some of y'all again. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Delegate. Oh, that's awesome. Great. All right. So with that, gonna have to do a little whipsaw here, or what is that? Whiplash here on you. I try not to do it too bad, but let's jump back to our presentation about the 1 million rising. So I'm just going to run through these slides pretty quickly. We talked about what is authoritarianism. So we can get to the meat of the okay, so one of the key ideas that this program is talking about is what supports an authoritarian regime. Obviously, the authoritarian cannot be the one to go out and collect the taxes and round up immigrants and do all the things on their own. Every regime needs a body of people, regular citizens like you and me, who are willing to go along. And as you can see, they are located and focused on these in various areas here, which you can look at on the screen. And there are more pillars than this. These are just some of the big ones that, that we're thinking of. Now, what is non-cooperation? So non-cooperation, which is the program where we want to move towards, is the act of refusing to cooperate or comply with requests, demands, or orders. You are already seeing non-cooperation now when you look at the Tesla takedown and you look at the sidewalk protests and so on and so forth. But non-cooperation can have many different faces, and it can be everything from mutual aid society to help communities under attack. It can be strikes, it can be economic boycotts, it can be just encircling a community when they're trying to go out and they're afraid of being or accompanying them to court. There are many, many types of non-cooperation. I'm just going to look at these really quickly, but just these are some examples that are already happening. I'm not going to read this to you, but on each of these three this slide and the next two, you can see the examples and how we can make this action stronger. This is a higher education one, and this is consumer one. As consumers, we have tremendous power, and we can and should be using it to assert our non-cooperation with the regime. And I wanted to give you just some recent examples of non-cooperation that I've just seen gleaned out of different headlines and different things I've followed. I'm not going to read these to you. You can look at them yourself. Some of them are very close to home and close to our hearts here, like the Bethesda Declaration at NIH. Examples of Fourth Amendment observers, who are circling around an ICE raid and yelling out to the agents saying you need to show a warrant, or filming people and asking questions. These are all recent examples. So let's go to 1 Million Rising. What is it? And this is the new national effort on the Indivisible's goal is to train 1 million people to resist authoritarianism. This is a series of 3 trainings. The first one happened on July 16th. And I know that some of you have already watched these trainings. Maybe you've watched both of them and you're eager for the third one. I know I am. So some of this is a little repetitive. You already know about this, so forgive me about that. But our goal tonight was just to make sure that our community was sort of grounded in this and we were all on the same page. So I'm repeating all this. And again, here are the slides and the links for you to catch up if you have not had a chance to look at these trainings yet. The first one was just an intro to authoritarianism, some of the things I've already talked about tonight. The second one on July 30th was how to make it happen. And that was more about talking to others about these issues. What Indivisible intended and wanted people to do who attended that July 30th meeting was to then go forward and gather people in their homes or small groups and discuss the material that was presented. So tonight is kind of our way to simulate that a bit, in this large meeting that we're having online. But I know many of you, or not many, but some of you, because you've talked to me about it, are already doing some of these meetings, which is fantastic. The third session will be next week. I really urge you to watch it because I'm super excited, as I said, for that. I think this is going to be the nuts and bolts of actually designing a campaign, a campaign of nonviolent non-cooperation, learning how to implement it locally, and then I'm assuming that Indivisible is also going to present some national campaigns that we can get involved in. So let's roll this up to like the 60,000 foot level. What are we really trying to get after here? What is the point of all of this? Well, the point is we need more people involved. We need more people engaged. And some of this goes back to the social scientist Erica Chenoweth, who has studied nonviolent, non-cooperative movements in different regimes across several decades. And what she's determined, and I've got a link to one of the papers that describes this, is that in all cases, with the exception of one, the the movement needed about 3.5% of the population to be steadily engaged in some sort of cooperative resistance. So in the United States, of course, that'd be about 11 million people, which sounds like pretty daunting. And we're not talking about people who just come to one event. We're talking about people who will be steadily engaged. So they may go to the Tesla takedown every week. They may do a Tesla takedown, and they may also meet with a group where they're trying to determine how can they form a mutual aid society for, just different kinds of those, or should they form a boycott? Should they target a business? Should they, go through some of these other examples of nonviolent non-cooperation techniques that we talked about? So the whole point of this program is that we need to, again, engage many more people and to also engage people in steady resistance. You don't have to do something every day, but you have to be pretty much, week after week, day after day, until we can, push those pillars. So at this point, it's what we hope to do tonight was to simulate sort of one of these groups. Now, we have a very large group online here, obviously, but we wanted to just spark your thinking about some of the things we've talked about already. These are discussion prompts on the screen that you can take a look at and think about. And we hope that you can share maybe some information with us in the chat if you would like to do that, or you could raise your hand and talk about these things. This is not, a test or any kind of heavy thing where we're going to write everything down and, come back and ask you to do these things. This is just, I guess we could talk about, maybe a brainstorming or just a discussion. How does this sound to you? Does this sound doable? Does this sound like something you are already moving towards? So with that, let me kind of hold the space here and be quiet and open the floor and I know that Susan and Donna are in the chat, so they can flag anything coming in the chat, and I'll keep an eye out on raised hands. So what's on your mind? I know it's a lot, so.
So, can you see the message from
Yeah,
Suzanne
yep.
Backtash?
Yeah.
So she asks, are there businesses that expressly support this
Sure.
administration?
Well, one example would be the Avelo Airlines, because they're doing the deportation flights. And interestingly enough, they don't even use their airline livery on those planes when they fly out of the country with the folks on them. Kind of makes you like, you, do you not think that we know about this, But that would be one example, Suzanne.
Jennifer?
Well, I'm just thinking we all live in Montgomery County, which is pretty already on board with all this. How do we, what I'd like to know is, how do you push it to expand beyond Montgomery County?
Well, there's examples of local non-cooperation and national non-cooperation. So if there was there's the boycott, for example, of Target I would consider that a national boycott that's been going on for months now. Does that make sense?
Plus, we all know people elsewhere. We have family and friends, and conversations with them can have an impact wherever they live. I mean, I think the whole idea behind Indivisible's initiative is to sort of stimulate the ripple effect of personal communication and get people talking to each other, whether in, formal gatherings or small gatherings or just one-to-one. And so the more you do that and the more you share the ideas that are being provided by Indivisible National, which are all on that homepage, this will spread. The word will spread.
And in the chat, we have a thing from Nicolette saying she thinks that starting small is best. She started with Amazon and Target boycotts several months ago, now doing the Tesla protests, and she switched from T-Mobile, maybe suggesting a T-Mobile takedown next. And then Robin suggests maybe we should start as a local thing, protesting Avelo at BWI.
There have been protests at BWI. There was one, I want to say 2 weekends ago.
Oh, okay.
And, as you guys probably know, on the Indivisible Montgomery website, there's a link to a spreadsheet of local protests that happen on a daily, weekly basis, and then ad hoc ones. And we put the Avelo one in there.
Okay. And then somebody mentions the CASA, which, we'll be talking about at another meeting. CASA is canvassing from its offices in Baltimore and Hyattsville to provide Know Your Rights information to immigrant communities. This is an existing avenue for resistance. That's from Nancy Rosenwasser.
Another way to do it that many of us have done is to be more selective in the media sources you support. So many of us have stopped subscribing to the Washington Post, Jeff Bezos's increasingly MAGA-oriented newspaper, and support instead papers like The Guardian or the Philadelphia Inquirer.
Baltimore Banner is doing a good job of local news.
The Courier newspapers. There are many options.
If I can put another plug in for our Indivisible Montgomery website, there's another link right on the homepage of media sources that we recommend that are just exactly like Steve and Donna were saying.
Yes.
They're healthy alternatives. Nonprofit media too, exactly like the Baltimore Banner. Yeah, that's a good one, especially since we already said that.
My hand, for some reason, I can't get my hand to raise, but
oh yeah, I didn't see your hand, Anna. Go ahead.
I can't. Normally you can just. Anyway, I don't know why that's not working, but I just wanted to jump in really quickly to say if someone wants to do some research on this, I did hear about a Avelo airline oriented project. It was more than a protest, and I don't remember exactly what was happening, but it was on the East Coast somewhere, and people were actually going there, and there was a lot of people that they were trying to get on the airplanes that didn't speak English. They were there, they were translating them for them, they were telling them what their rights were, and apparently there are laws. Many airports or airlines, or I have to look into this, but have rules that say you can't take someone against their will. So
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Explain that to them, then they actually were able to get a lot of people to not get on the airplane immediately. We're able to connect them to lawyers and so forth. So that's more hands-on, and I think even more effective. Of course, it takes more planning and strategizing and more effort on the part of the people participating, but that was something I heard about, and I'd love to know about the details of that. I don't know that I personally have in my schedule the ability to do that. Also, I attended a really great bystander training session recently, and I'm sure that you are going to be, CASA has many opportunities, I think, that, especially if you join and pay dues, but I'm happy to share all that with you they said you could share all the information within trusted networks, and they had a slides and a video and a whole.
Great.
It was very helpful, and they also, the organization, this was through Free DC, so they're in DC, but CASA would be our sort of equivalent organization, and they also provided sort of services where you can accompany people to any sort of appointments they have. And somebody had brought up school. That's a whole other issue. A lot of kids are not going to school because they don't feel safe, you know, and all that. And so that, but getting involved in those organizations, there might be more to do beyond sort of our regular boycotts and so forth. And something that came up in the 1 Million Rising, because I attended both of those, I thought was interesting, was, and this is not something I could do, but getting faith leaders to talk to local sheriffs. And this is maybe not so much in Montgomery County because we already have a Democratic sheriff and we're, you know, but something you could talk to if you know people close by in counties. That has been effective in some conservative areas where faith leaders get together and pressure the sheriffs and saying what you're doing is unethical when you're, you know, collaborating with ICE, and within the community having sort of a pressure from, especially if it's a large presence of, you know, people in those faith communities. And I would say media is another pillar. I know you guys were talking about that, but I've been trying to figure out how do we pressure other than, you know, get rid of Paramount and Plus and all of that, and support independent media. That's helpful.
Right. Good. Great. Is there a print-friendly version of 1 Million Rising information?
There is in the slides that we're going to share, isn't there? Kind of.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll share these slides, and they have a link to the No Kings webpage, which is kind of the mothership for all this information.
Yeah, I put that link in the chat already.
Okay, it's in the chat. But
And
we'll
I
also
think-
share it again. So
Right, and I think that the most print-friendly version in terms of if you want to print it out is actually in the host guide,
yep, and that's also
which
on
is
that
linked on
website.
that No King site.
Right.
But
Right.
just because there's a lot of stuff there, take a look at the hosting guide. For the agenda, if you host a gathering, I think is the most print-friendly version of this.
Yeah. Sharon.
Okay, go ahead.
Speaking of hosting, this is where I'm getting a little stuck. It feels like in the materials, I went to the first one and then I wasn't able to attend the second, so I kind of watched the video. But I feel like I'm lost on the, like, how to make that pitch to the people that I want to invite. I can tell what I'm supposed to be doing in it, but it's just kind of that first step. So I was curious if anybody has set up any sessions yet, and kind of, can you just be real basic and walk through what you did to, like, invite people? I know they talk about the mechanics of inviting, but I don't see like a little template that I could start with as a, like, hey, let's get together and talk. I don't know. That feels hard to broach.
That's I totally get you. And I think one of the things I would say is, are you happy with how things are going?
Are you looking for some way to do something about it?
Yeah.
Because Indivisible, this national organization, has a plan.
Yeah, that's how I would start, Sharon. I don't know, Susan, are you responding have you held one? Did you want to jump in?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Susan Milner. I did hold a gathering on Monday night. We had about 23 people. And instead of using the mobilize feature, I sent individual emails to people, and I just said that I think I called it a nonviolent resistance training. And I invited them to come and learn with me. And almost every single person I invited came, and the rest said they wanted to come. So I just kept it very personal. And then at the end, like the night before, I just said, okay, I have this Mobilize link. You're free to sign up that way if you want to, but you don't have to. And I was trying to reach out to people who I don't know that this has been that important to them. And they all felt really happy to be included and went away hopeful. And it feels a little odd to invite people to something when you don't know what the end result is going to be. They want to know what's the end result, right? And you can't tell them. But people were happy to come, and they're coming back in a couple weeks. So I just
That's great. That's great. And I know for folks who are interested, I mean, the window is closing pretty soon, but if you wanted to put an event up on Mobilize, you can mark it private. So that way you don't get somebody from Connecticut, trying to sign up for your thing. But I think that's a really good question, Sharon.
It
What do you
is.
say?
Yeah. And also, just so you know, for those who haven't been to the training, they are the window is closing for this round, but they are asking for follow-up meetings. So if you don't have the ability to do it for this window, there's still an ability to do it later. It's just you can't
Oh, yeah.
necessarily put it up on Mobilize. It's not too late, in other words.
Not
Don't
at
think
all.
it's too late to do this.
Not at all.
We did have a question in the chat. Are we distinguishing between, from Leslie, are we distinguishing between protests and defiance activities? And I thought that was an interesting question you might want to answer.
Protests
think
versus
yes.
defiance activities. Yes, I think I think they're part, like if you did a Zen, a Zen, not Zen, what a Venn.
Venn.
Thank
Venn and
you.
Zen.
A
Too
Venn
too
diagram,
long out
yes.
of work. If you do a Venn diagram, I think they would all both, the larger one would be what I'm sorry, was it non-resistance, right?
Mm.
And it would be protest would be a kind of not of resistance or non-cooperation, because it's not normal to have a group of 50 people standing on a sidewalk yelling,
Right, but
and
it is very much about moving beyond just protest
yes,
into other forms of pressure
yes,
on the pillars.
exactly. Because one of the things, if you start digging into this more, and I know that some of you already have, so I'm not trying to sound like, I know everything, because I certainly don't. Is that one of the things that the best way to deal with an authoritarian regime is to keep switching up your chemotherapy, shall we say, right? So like, keep switching your tactics. Like, so if we stand out in front of Tesla every weekend, which is great, and I love doing that personally, but we can't just do that. We have to hit the regime with different resistance activities then it's like, oh, what? Oh, okay. Now they're not buying anything on Amazon anymore. What do we do now? So that's why it's important. And if you look at the history of some of these other resistance movements, that's exactly what they did. They kept switching things, so that there would be new tactics. Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think I want to put it a little differently. So when we talk about protesting Tesla, to some extent that's advocacy. And we're telling people this is poison, but the non-cooperation would be not buying Tesla or selling Teslas, where that directly hurts Tesla. Whereas advocacy is asking for something or demanding something. And so by directly hurting Tesla and dropping its share price or whatever, or Elon Musk is forced to do something.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas demanding something is like, well, you hope someone cares.
Yeah, thank you.
That's a good way
Great.
of putting it. So we have some other things just to read out from the chat where people were brainstorming. Suzanne suggests give money to lawyers groups who are opposing this administration regularly, like Democracy
Forward.
a Democracy Docket, ACLU, and others.
Mm-hmm.
Hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Then people were suggesting some
Crew, yeah.
some group, some media to support. September 16th is National Voter Registration Day. Indivisible HOCO is planning an event for that. There's a link to volunteer with CASA this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Suzanne says she would be happy to start a Google Doc with non-cooperation activities and people can add, which is a good idea. The Maryland General Assembly fell short of totally prohibiting local police from cooperating with ICE. This must change. Yes, we'll be doing in the Indivisible Maryland Coalition. The whole Maryland Coalition is going to be working on something with that with CASA. About trying to pressure the assembly to take that up again. I'm having trouble keeping up with the chat. If someone else wants to do some, there's quite a few new items. Nina says she had a small group and she used this invitation. Are you feeling powerless in the face of the lawlessness of this administration? You can't bear to watch the news. Do you feel there's nothing you can do? It's true, one or two people cannot save our democracy by themselves, but together we can.
It's good.
That's good.
I'm keeping an eye on the clock here, so I think this was great, but I think we're going to move to our last slide. So thanks for everybody. Thank you so much for spontaneously sharing all of that, guys. It was kind of daunting, I know, to have like a discussion period with 68 people. So you did great. Thank you. I'm going to go to the last slide, which is next actions. So here we go. Obviously, register for part 3. We'll send these slides out so you have all the links. You can still host a gathering of your friends if you want to do that, and that's great. You know, we're thinking when the steering committee got together to think about this, we thought more realistically, I mean, I know Indivisible had that deadline, but I mean, the end of August is really tough. So, you know, don't sweat it. You know, you can push
Anytime.
this back.
Yeah.
Yeah, really. And you know what? If you don't host a gathering, you can talk to people about this. You can make these gatherings can be just 2 people. That's fine. Share the 1 Million Rising website, which again, that is, like I said, the mothership with all of this info. And email us, email Indivisible Montgomery. Tell us, would you like help organizing a group gathering? Would you like us to advertise something for you or give you some assistance in some way? Remember that our immediate goal is to add more people who are doing something in a sustained way. So that is my wrap up. Let me go back to the meeting. I think we have a minute for just 1 or 2 quick, let me stop sharing at this point. Any last thoughts, real quick?
Well, I added in the chat that our next Indivisible Montgomery book club, we're going to be reading a book related to this, Chenoweth's book on why civil resistance works. And then the second half of it will be one of these gatherings. So
Yeah,
Susan, what is the book?
it's by Erica Chenoweth, the person who did the 3.5% research that Dee mentioned. She has a book and we'll be reading it, and then we'll be discussing the book and also doing some of the discussion that's based on the toolkit for holding these gatherings.
And the name of the book?
Why Civil Resistance Works.
Thanks.
and while I still have everybody, oh my gosh, guys, we started the meeting at $14,923. We are now up to $15,568.
Great.
That is awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome. We need you saw how cool Josh Cole is. We need like 10 of him in there. So great work, people. You are hitting it out of the park. Well, on that happy
One
note,
last thing, I just put in the chat
Dave.
the link to register for Indivisible's session 3 of this whole initiative, the last session they're going to have,
Yeah.
which is coming up.
Perfect.
So the link is a little bit up in the chat now, but it's right there.
Yep, the 13th of August. So definitely I will be on there like with my note pen hot. So Yeah, thanks, guys. I wanted just to thank you guys for spending the time with us tonight. We really appreciate it. It was great to hear the discussion. Again, we will send out the slides and we will send out the recording once it's up. And thank you and have a great night.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, everyone.